Delaha. My name is Annette Reed, and I'm Talawa Dene Nation. I'm also a faculty member here in Ethnic Studies and Native American Studies and chair of the Department of Ethnic Studies. And it's my honor to have all of you here today. And many of you I've known maybe for years, and some of you I'm just meeting, and it just makes me really happy to see all of you here. There's also, I really appreciated the support of our administration, because when I let them know that we were going to be meeting here and invited them, not just one, but three immediately said yes, and I really felt good about that. And so the first person I'd like to bring up here, we have a draft land acknowledgement that we're working on with the different tribe nations within the area. And so right now it's with the tribes. And so I'm saying draft land acknowledgement because we have a partial agreement and then we're still working through it. So if our Associate Dean, Diane Heisen, and she's the Dean of Social Science and Interdisciplinary Studies, could read the land acknowledgement. Thank you.
Thank you, Annette. It's my honor to be here. Sacramento State acknowledges with respect the land our campus is on today, to be and continues to be the homelands of the indigenous people of this area, the Nisenan, specifically the Nisem, Paunan, and Miwok. The larger Sacramento area and its rivers serve as a gathering place for many local tribes from the surrounding valley and foothills, including the southern Maidu, Patwin, and Wintun. Sacramento State recognizes these lands and riverways as unceded traditional territories of these Native peoples. We further recognize these California Native nations and respect their sovereignty. By offering this land acknowledgement, we affirm the university's commitment to build and foster relationships and a university environment of success to better serve Native nations and communities.
Thank you. Next I'd like to, I just can't go that high, okay? Next I would like to have come up here our provost, and his name is Carlos Navarra, and I'm just really excited about him coming here because I know that at this time of year, with July 1st being kind of the end of the academic year, all kinds of changes being made here, that he created time in his busy day. So I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I can tell you, I would not rather be anywhere else but here right now. I think it's very timely in terms of just the focus, of these conversations in terms of healing. And as you know, what transpired yesterday is very disappointing across the board in terms of the reversal of affirmative action and not using race-based as a decision, to admit our population, our community. So it's about healing, right? It's about restorative justice. It's about equity. And I can tell you, Sacramento State particularly, we are the People's University. We're not going to be deterred. We are the fourth most diverse campus in the Western State, and we're going to continue to keep that going. But it is disappointing that we're taking a step backwards nationally. Here in Sacramento, well, we don't have affirmative action for the last 25 years, but universities like ourselves have made it work, and will continue to make it work. At the same time, how is it that we're diverse and I can highlight a lot of the positive attributes that we continue to emphasize, but we also got to emphasize and challenge, be upfront in terms of the challenges. And what are some of the challenges, particularly as it relates to Native American community? Well, we haven't fared well in terms of representation of Native American students. It's been a decline of Native American students over the last decade. So we can do better in that area. And actually, with the new president coming in, and definitely me on board, we're very deliberate and intentional of addressing these challenges. And so we identify a problem, what is the solution? And I want to butcher the name, but it's exciting that this coming fall, there's going to be a grand opening of the Native American Center. Esakima, thank you. And it's going to be the hub in terms of really providing the wraparound services, holistic services in terms of, high touch practice, promising practice that allows us to be out in the community. I know there's a grant from the Chancellor's office that allows us to go out into and be in communication and be in community with the 9 regional tribal communities in the Sacramento region, to do the high touch, to develop a relationship so we can increase, our students. But it's not only getting them onto campus, it's getting them through. One thing is to get them here, the other thing is to ensure they graduate in a timely manner, so we're committed to that. But it's not all on the center, it's also on the greater university. As you know, there's no silver bullet, there's multiple practices that need to be, ongoing and in tandem in order for us to, to make a dent. And one of the things in terms of being the pros in academic affairs is being intentional and allocating resources and transforming our culture to ensure that we're supporting, in this case, Native American community. And to that point, and I'm sure Dean Hyson is going to give me an applause on this one, just two positions, 2 faculty positions have been approved for next year, hiring 2 Native American positions. So, did I hit a little bit of love? A little bit of love? Okay, thank you. So, and of course, we got good representation here in the council with Anthony. So another way to actually make a difference in terms of increasing the success, particularly Native American students, is also representation of faculty that actually are from the communities that live the experience. And when you bring representation, because of the shared experience and the lived experience, they're the greatest advocates, to their own. So we understand that clearly. So we're going to continue to increase the proportional representation of Native American faculty. So all to say, we're here with you. Welcome to our campus. We are the People's University. I'm excited in terms of the transition with the new president, President Wood. He's all about, I'm sure, he's out there in the media. He's front and center is the values of social justice, equity, emancipation, those values that are really, allow us to be transformational leaders from equity standpoint. So once again, welcome to Sacramento State, and we're here to serve you.
Oh. Hello again. The next person I'd like to introduce, and this is the next person just to do a few words of welcome, and I'm really appreciative that she's here, is Dr. Mia Settles Tidwell, and she is the Vice President of Inclusive Excellence here on campus, and so it's my honor to present her.
Thank you, Dr. Reed. I am very honored to be with you today to share space, but also to share that we at Sacramento State are on a journey to become an anti-racism and inclusive campus. We recognize the horrific wrongs that have been done over the years and continue. And so we want to reckon with those. We want to be a part of the truth-telling. And a big part of that truth-telling is to say we haven't done enough. When we think about repatriation, we haven't done it fast enough. And we haven't done it in consultation. And so we're here to listen, and not only to listen, but to hear and then to act. I was just sharing with my colleagues that it's so important for me to hear, because I want to add more goals into that anti-racist and inclusive campus plan and action steps that are related to our needs of our Native community and our goals to make right the wrongs that we know that we come here to tell truth and heal from today. So I'm just honored to be here. I am at your service, and please reach out to me if I can be of support to you in any way. So thank you.
Whoa, now I really broke this. Okay.
Well, we're gonna pass it around anyway.
Okay, we're gonna pass it around anyway. I meant to do that. Okay, so I wanted to say thank you for being here, and also we have several people here who actually work here at Sac State in our area, and I'm really appreciative that we're gonna get 2 hires within ethnic studies, 2 in Chicanx Latinx, and 2 in Native American studies. Next year, that's really exciting. 2 years ago, we were able to hire Dr. Anthony Burris, and we were able to hire Dr. Amber Bill, and then also is it going on 2.5 years ago? Dr. Rossos, the war soldier, she created a class on California natives, and so that'll be taught the first time in spring 2024, and it's an Area F class, the first upper division Area F, so it's in a general education category. So we're really excited about these changes. And I don't know, is everybody gonna introduce themselves later? Okay, so when you introduce yourself, if you're here affiliated with South State, because I know Albert is and Miranda and different people around here, so you can go on into that later. Thank you, I'll hand it back.
Thank you all, and thank you again for hosting us here. Again, there are some snacks and coffee in the back. Apparently the cookies are very good, and I've tried the chips and the watermelon, so there might not be any watermelon left because it's really good. Okay, so we'll go over a couple of logistics, and then I'm going to open it up for council members to introduce themselves, say a few words if they'd like. We'll introduce our office staff, and then we'll also go around and have everybody introduce themselves, say a few words if they like, and that's kind of how these go. But I'll kind of give you the high-level overview after we do our introductions as well. So today's agenda, we just got started. We had our traditional opening and had our opening introductions and remarks. We'll then go into, as I mentioned, some introductions of everybody here. If you have something that you came prepared to talk about, you can do so at this time. You can also wait until later, until after we do an overview of the council and where we're at in the process. And then we'll do the overview of the council and the process, where we're at, any updates at this time. And then we'll go into just open discussion and questions and comments and feedback about the council and how you'd like to contribute. We'll then have a traditional closing. So as a reminder, we're recording this meeting and we'll be posting it to the Office of Tribal Affairs YouTube channel. Please let us know if there's any point at this during this listening session that you'd like us to pause our recording, or if you want to come up to us afterward and say like, hey, I actually didn't want that to be recorded and made available to the public, just let us know and we can edit the video. For those interested in following the council, ongoing updates including listening session recordings and the listening session summary documents are available at the California Truth and Healing Council Updates blog at catruthandhealing.com. You can also get updates for events by following the Governor's Office of Tribal Affairs on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Additional details, including meeting dates, agendas, and background information, is available at tribalaffairs.ca.gov/CTHC. I'd like to remind everyone that in joining us here today, you agree to adhere to the Council's principles for respectful engagement, which I'll summarize for you in a moment. A copy of the principles is available for your use and review at tribalaffairs.ca.gov/CTHC. Refusal to adhere to these principles, which apply to all participants, including governing council members, staff, and community members, whether present or not, may result in removal from today's convening. If you feel at any time that you need to step out, or you feel that you may be in need of assistance, please find one of our team and we'll help you get some air. We also have Virginia Hedrick here from Sakui, who is helping facilitate our healing process, and so please feel free to find her specifically. And also Albert, if you'd like to step out and just kind of think through and process what you're hearing here today. So in order to create a space where participants feel welcome, respected, and able to speak comfortably, we're upholding the following principles in all convenings of the council. We ask that everyone who participates work towards sharing in their stewardship. If you're a participant in a convening with us, we ask that you engage in the work of the council and with others in an open and respectful way. Engage in behaviors that will make others feel welcome. Take care of your emotional, mental, spiritual, and physical well-being, and seek support as you need it. So that doesn't mean we don't want to hear controversial topics, we don't want to hear anger, we don't want to hear distrust. I think it's, please feel free to air those things, but please try not to make it a personal attack, and please try to keep where you feel like emotions rising, to take a breath, potentially step out, go on a walk, and then also feel free to bring that back to the discussion so we can talk through what just happened. Finally, I'd like to remind attendees that as we work through today's discussions, the process is necessarily open to all Californians because everybody needs to work toward collective healing. But we ask that those here as allies ensure that they please respect the space and voices of California Native participants, particularly elders in this process. For those members of the press in attendance or watching this recording after the fact, we ask that you engage with this process with deference to the Native experience and that you commit to obtaining consent and final review from the Native peoples that you hear from today. We don't want this to be an extractive process, and we hope that you'll assist us in creating a safe space that is open, transparent, and welcome to all. So I'm gonna hand it over to Councilmember Lucas, who wants to say a few words. She told me beforehand, in case you don't wanna do it, you can tell me now. And then we'll hand it over to Councilmember Burris as well.
Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, one thing I've noticed when you're all speaking up there, you might be talking too close to the mic. As you can tell, I'm an antique, and with that is hard of hearing, so you're coming across a little mushy.
Okay.
So hopefully I'm not coming across mushy, but feel free to laugh. If that's not funny, that's okay. My name again is Carmen Lucas. I'm an Oime Indian from San Diego County. It is my privilege and my honor to be here today. I like to come to these sessions as a board member because I want to hear what you have to say, and I want to know that you know we have a true honest interest in what it is that California Indians want to see come out of the truth and healing. This all of a sudden is sounding to me like it's not coming across, is it or not? You see, it's these crappy, cheap hearing aids. If the battery's going down, then so is your hearing, so please bear with me. I just wanted to share a story with you. I mentioned it to Christina beforehand. I've worked for the last 25, 30 years with cultural resource management companies. A lot of young archaeologists, a lot of old farts. It's the old farts who are black and white, don't want to really acknowledge that, yes, we're still here. That's our history you're digging up and erasing. We have a right to participate in the process. So it's a very complex business, but make no mistake, it is a business. Those people who run that business live a heck of a lot better than I do. And they've made millions of dollars digging up our history in the state of California. Our blood of our ancestors is in all of this dirt. So I give you that background because I believe very strongly in what I'm about to tell you. We had a young archaeologist working with us. I helped her get her master's degree. Her husband came up to Davis to get a doctor's. He's a medical doctor now, and they have 3 children. But she worked here in Sacramento, in downtown Sacramento. This was probably about 10 years ago. Some of you may be familiar with this, and I may have it a little wrong, but the essence of what happened is correct. She said this young Indian who was the monitor really hated her and treated her like a piece of dirt, and she didn't understand why. Well, it's my generation who really just tested archaeologists, my generation, my father's generation, because we understood they were grave diggers. They were stealing our artifacts and our bones. Over the years, of course, people learned to get over that kind of anger, but she did not understand that. But she said the reason was because in downtown Sacramento, they were digging up hundreds, if not thousands, of human remains. What happens in the cultural resource management business, if they don't do the proper steps beforehand and they end up in development and all of a sudden there's all these human remains, they don't have the budget to properly handle those. So they'll go to Home Depot and get these buckets, fill them with midden soils that have human remains in it, and the whole office corridor was lined up with those buckets. I've been told some of those companies have gone out of business, and what they do is put those containers in a container, and eventually they don't pay the bill, they go out of business, and then that soil is in the flea market for sale. You know, this is good potting soil. So, you know, that's just a little bit of 2 things that I know personally that have happened over the year, but I wanted to share that with you because this is Sacramento. It's the capital of the state of California. I'm assuming, and I hate that word, I'm usually the first 3 letters of it, but I'm assuming 90% of you are all California Indians. We have a right to participate in the process. If you're not doing that, please do. And please, let's find a way where we can take back our ownership of our heritage. We should not agree, and we should not, 100 years later, think it's all right to dig up our human remains because of development. We have technology today with the use of the forensic dogs that can identify where most likely there's human remains. So if we were to use that first, then you could design your program to avoid those places. And I'm a real advocate of that. If you have any questions, don't be bashful. I want to hear what you have to say, but I just thought I'd share that with you. Hopefully it's meaningful. Hopefully somebody will understand what I'm talking about. Okay, and thank you for allowing us to come here. If you have anything that you'd like us specifically to address, please don't be bashful.
Thank you, Councilmember. And we have 2 more council members, so I'm going to turn it over to Councilmember Burris.
Is it on? Yeah, okay, I can hear. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Anthony Burris, and I am a citizen of Ione Band of Miwok Indians, and I also do a lot of work that's similar to what Carmen was just talking about, so I can back up everything she just said about these processes. I may have been working on the project you're referring to if it happened here in Sacramento. I serve on my tribe's cultural committee and work with my tribe's cultural department. So a lot of the work we do is with cultural site protection, and then I also work on repatriation, which I know has been mentioned here at least once today. So I'm serving, I'm a faculty member here at Sac State. I'm an assistant professor who I just finished my first year. And so I do serve on our campus's NAGPRA committee. So I'm working on this issue really closely, not just at this campus, but also at UC Davis. I just finished up a term on their NAGPRA committee, and then I'm helping my tribe manage several major projects to repatriate ancestors from both Berkeley and from state parks that originate from either Sacramento County or Amador County. So that's one of the main things that I work on, is repatriation, but also cultural site protection. And I do want to thank Dr. Reed for coordinating this meeting today, and all the administration for their support. I don't know that I have anything else to add at this time, but yeah, everything that Carmen just said, those are topics that are really close to my heart as well. And I believe our other council member today also works on those issues as well. So pretty much we all work on those issues. You know, it's something that's really time consuming. For us. And I guess to get a little more philosophical on that, because I've been making this point with a lot of people, it's really hard because it is so time consuming. So when we have some of these issues like repatriation settled, it will allow us to work on other issues. It'll free up our time so that our community members can further themselves in other ways. I just recorded for a podcast recently where I talked about this, but it can consume your life doing this kind of work. And we shouldn't have to have our young people's lives consumed by repatriating our ancestors, by ensuring that we have basic human rights that everybody else in society enjoys. So that's one of the reasons why it's really close to my heart, and I work on that so that our future generations won't have their lives guided by this kind of necessities where we're cleaning up the messes of colonialism, right? So I will go ahead and stop there.
Very well said, Councilmember Burris. And I think a very good kind of through line to all of the work that we're hoping to accomplish through the council is trying to figure out a way to make some inroads on decolonizing and making a world where Native people don't feel like they have to be constantly advocating so that things don't backslide, and where you could just spend all summer making jewelry if you wanted. Councilmember Bojorquez.
Mishistu, Iko Tamakam, Ngete Karak, Isaac Bojorquez. So good day, welcome everyone. My name is Isaac Bojorquez. Dr. Reed, Provost, thank you for opening campus. It's actually good to be on campus. I was here for a short period of time, It's changed. As I was driving in, I'm like, wow, there's a lot of changes that happened here. Just kind of reminded me up of, Stingers Up. And so it was really nice to drive back on the campus, and I actually got turned around with all the changes. So apologize for my tardiness. I too want to express the sentiment of my fellow council members of everything that we do is for the betterment of future generations. It is a small circle that we sit in. We do these things for healing. As Carmen, as Anthony had mentioned, we can't heal ourselves until these tasks are done. It's a part of every Native person, whether you're California.
And I remember her telling me when we talk about these boarding schools, my gosh, she told me, about
Native or not. If you're Indigenous and you're in this work, you're doing this work so that you can heal, so that your kids can heal, and the generations that come after you can heal. That's why we do the work that we do. I can only speak for myself, and when I share with my boys, I tell them, if this work doesn't get done, I'm sorry, but you have to continue it. And you have to continue it whether there's a financial reward at the end or not. Because it is about that healing. We come here as California Truth and Healing, as a council, to hear the testimony of the community, to hear how you think healing should occur for you, for your nation, for your citizens. And I always emphasize on that too, citizens. We are citizens of our great nation. A lot of the times you will hear tribal members, and agencies refer to us as members. And I always point that out. We are citizens of our nation. We are not an organization such as a PTA or other things where they have membership. We are sovereign nations speaking for the betterment of our people. Whether we are federally recognized or non-federally recognized, we are elected officials by our citizens to represent them the best way that we can, hearing them. We are to report to them. As a member of this council, I am to report to the community. That's why it's important for me to come and to listen. I try to make as many as I can, because as it was previously said, it is important to us. We can't make recommendations as a council if we're not here to listen to the testimony that's given. And so I do my best to try and make the ones that I can make, but I also remember my elder saying, Isaac, you gotta take care of yourself. Excuse my language, or he'll say, you're no damn good to anybody else. So we do have to take time for self-care, for ourselves and for our family, but I do the best that I can to make it. I'm honored to be here. Thank you for opening the campus, and thank you all for coming and attending. Shuru.
Thank you, council member. So I'm gonna let my staff introduce themselves real quick, and then we'll go around the room and folks can introduce themselves and say a few words, can share what you'd like to share, or you can just introduce yourself and let us know a little bit about what you're hoping to get out of today. So, Loretta.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Loretta Miranda. I am a first-generation descendant of the Morongo Band of Mission Indians in Southern California. Again, thank you to Sacramento State University and Dr. Reed for making this space available, and thank you all for coming out here to share your experiences and learn more about the Truth and Healing Council and how you can get involved. You might have noticed that I'm wearing a couple hats over here. I'm taking pictures, and so please let me know if you do not want me to use your photo on any social media or anything like that. Just come talk to me afterwards, and I can make sure that does not happen. I'm teaching myself how to take photos, so I'll take a lot during the introductions. I'll try to get all of you when we're doing introductions, and then I'll calm down a bit. But just thank you for your patience, and happy to be here.
Go.
Michael?
Hi. Michael Park. I'm the office assistant over at the Office of I'd be happy to run the mic to you or anything else. Just let me know if you need anything.
Thank you, Michael. And Michael keeps us sane, so we very much appreciate him, and you might recognize him from all of our outgoing emails. So we're gonna pass it around and let folks introduce themselves. There should be a couple of evenly spaced microphones, so if you can all kind of share, we'll just go around the room, and we'll start here.
Hello, everybody. My name is Erica Edwards. I am with Native Dads Network. I am the harm reduction coordinator and the executive assistant. I am Maidu, Miwok, Pomo, Wailaki, and Wintune. My family is from Round Valley and the Susanville, Greenville area. And this is my first conference, so I'm very interested in hearing what everybody has to say. I'm gonna pass it.
Hello again, my name is Albert Tittman. Nisnan, Miwok, Maidu, Medesa Band of River people. My families are enrolled in the Band of Miwok people and the Medesa Band of the River Nation. And the Bureau of Indian Affairs just sent me a updated CDIB, and I'm 2532nd Miwok and 1633rd River, and then Maidu, not Maidu. You do the math. Going by that today. And it's a blessing to be here. You know, I'm here in one capacity to support Sakui and this listening session today. This is my first listening session for the Truth and Healing conference, or coming together. And so I feel honored that you would ask me to support in the capacity of offering an opening blessing. Our local elder, Mary Tarango, just wasn't feeling well today, and so I was asked to open and close today, but to also be supportive of anybody that may need to step away, or if there's anyone that is feeling a little emotional about the topics in any capacity, right? Maybe you're bothered, by something that triggers trauma, or maybe something that's just upsetting you, like getting you mad, angry, frustrated. And so if you need any of that kind of support, I'm here in a capacity to, maybe we can step out. I brought some of my medicine if you want to smudge, pray, anything. I'm here in that capacity, but I'm also here as an elder in residence for Sac State University. My friend Rena just reminded me that we that got approved, and so I was like, cool. I'll just say older in residence. And then, of course, I'm the deputy director of the Native Dads Network, which is where we're moving past grassroots. We've been doing the work in tribal communities, in clinical practice. I've been working in that field for about 22 years now. A lot of it was spent urban Indian practice at SNAC locally, and also having a hand in working in tribal communities, in the areas of prevention, intervention, and treatment for issues around, let's say, historical and intergenerational impacts, but specifically SUD, OUD, AUD, you name it, and supporting our relatives and finding a path of healing. And all of that is founded, I'd say centered, but founded on culture, tribal culture, right? Specifically our tribal culture here regionally, spiritually and ceremonially. So culturally, spiritually, and ceremonial practice. So I used to say we're integrating that into the Western model, especially in clinics. But what I realized over the years is that the numbers are continuing to climb, in areas of, let's just say, overdose and overdose death. And so my approach, and maybe I need to come back to school and really develop this as a model, is we need to lay those on the foundations of culture, spirituality, and ceremonial practice, and integrate the Western model. It's kind of like we're trying to force a square peg into a round hole with those models of healing. And I've heard them across the United States. I've been blessed to travel to communities across the United States, even here in California. And in every tribe, almost every tribe, has our traditions, has our languages, has sacred places, right? And we're looking to protect sacred sites. Those old sites are really a lot of times the places where our people went to heal. We have roundhouses here in our area. And so that's been really the foundation of my vision for the work that I've been blessed to be able to share with a lot of relatives. And guess what? It's worked. There's a lot of people that I know, maybe some of you sitting in this room today, that I've been blessed just to be a small part of your healing and wellness and truth in healing and wellness, right? And so I feel blessed to be here today. And we could go on and on. I want to talk about legacy and missions. Hey, well, that's a whole nother discussion, but maybe later.
Bija Amala, Nia Nadavinia Reno Horse, Numa Astadwe, New Gudiktigat. Good day to everyone. My name is Rena Horse. My relatives are Pit River and Paiute. My bands are the Hot Springs People and the Groundhog Eaters from the northeastern corner of California. I'm very honored to be here with each and every one of you in this space. This is my first time attending a Truth and Healing session. I'm very honored to serve as the Asoctama Center and Native Student Success counselor here at Sacramento State. Our center is still currently under development and will open soon. Our grand opening celebration is scheduled for Monday, October 2nd, and we would be honored if each and every one of you came to our event. On Monday, I will have a save the date flyer to send out to everyone. So yeah, I'm very honored to be here, and I will share a few comments later in the session. Thank you. Bijat.
Hello. My name is Annette Ochoa. I'm Yaqui from the Arizona Phoenix. It's called the Old Guadalupe. That's where my mother's from. And I'm a teacher at the Washington Unified School District, and I work with the Indian Education Program for the last 23 years. I'm a student from UC Davis, former student, alumni, sorry. I'm here. We're opening up community centers. We got some money from the federal government, and so they're going to put community centers in each school site, and counselors and social workers. My reasoning for being here is for the youth, our students. I want to know how we can bring this message to healing to the students, families, and counselors that we will be having them to heal these students, because these students are going through a lot of trauma as well. And so I'm here to listen and see what information I can bring. Thank you.
Hello, Martin Solis, teacher, math and special ed with a high school.
Thank you. I'm gonna stand up, if you guys don't mind. My name is Alfred Melbourne, Fort Peck, Assiniboine Sioux, and it's my privilege and honor to be here amongst you all, the Committee for Truth and Healing, and the representatives of the state and governor's office. You know, I hear truth and healing, and I'm just seeking something that I've been looking for a very long time, and I've been finding very little of it for myself and for our community. And I'm hardly one like a speaker or like I don't represent or speak for anyone else. I'm just speaking from my position, what I see. And there's a lot to be said. And I want to thank you for your words acknowledging all the California natives and those of us that aren't from California. Because I am Fort Peck, Assiniboine Sioux. That is not a California tribe. You guys know that. My great-grandmother, Helen Arnell Speakswalking, was relocated here in the 50s. So I didn't have no choice, right? So, but I do love it here, and I take it as an honor and a privilege, and I thank you, brother, for recognizing and acknowledging that. So, yeah, truth and healing, you guys. So Alfred Melbourne, I'm the founder and director of Three Sisters Gardens. We're a 501c3 in West Sacramento. We work to support the at potential high promise youth in our community. And wording is very important. So I always say at potential, high promise, right? Not at risk. But I won't be long-winded, you guys. Some of you guys might know me and the work that I do in the community, and we need support to continue doing the work. We had a gang injunction for over 10 years over criminalizing our youth, right? We need programs to support them, to give them a new rite of passage, access, mentors, everything, including the kitchen sink. That's what we need. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And we have to be funny about this sometimes, because if you can't laugh, you're gonna cry.
Right.
It's right on the edge. It's right on the tip right there. But we shy away from it. Right? Us as men, and this whole process, truth and healing. I'm looking for it, you guys. I hope that everybody here is very open, candid, and truthful with our representatives and the people in this whole process, man. Because our kids are drowning out in these communities. I hear everything that you guys are talking about, inclusion, BIPOC, minority, and all I hear is, I'm gonna just keep it real, tokenism, right? Performative actions. Mic drop out of here, man.
Hi everyone, my name is Rosa, a war soldier. I am Mountain Maidu, Kuya, and Liseño, and an enrolled member of Saboba Band of Liseño Indians. My mother's side of the family is Mountain Maidu from Susanville Indian Rancheria, and my father's side of the family are Kuya and Liseño from Saboba. So I am an assistant professor here, like Annette mentioned, Dr. Reed mentioned, so this is 2.5 years, I believe, I've been here. So I'm very excited to meet all of you. Some of you I do know sort of virtually, and then some of you, like, we're social media homies, and then some of you I'm meeting for the very first time. So I'm very excited to just sort of listen. Certainly, as someone who is a faculty member, I have my own opinions about sort of like what I think our university should be doing, and what I would like to see the Truth and Healing Council sort of advocate for when it comes to specifically looking at university students, especially when we look at what the UC system has agreed to do. But again, I welcome all of you. It's lovely to meet all of you. I hope to meet many of you individually, face to face. So again, welcome, and that's what I got. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Miranda Maggio, Malay, my grandmother's language. This is my first Truth and Healing session. I'm a lone wolf. I say that because what brought me here is my grandmother is a, oh wow, I can stand on the earth. My grandmother is a survivor of the Sherman Institute, and her sister, when we were hanging out in our own family circles, because we're from the non-federally recognized tribe, the Ukiah Rancheria, my grandmother left from there. I believe that they're a nonprofit now. I'm not certain, but when we were sitting in our own family circles, my great aunt had said, colonization has happened, people are here, we've lost much. How are you going to turn this around? So when I heard about these meetings, I thought, Auntie, now is the time. Now is the time when we all get to come together and turn this around. And so that's what I feel about this, and that's why I'm here as a lone wolf. And I thank you, and I thank Sacramento for pulling this together and doing this, and for the government as well, and for where you sit on that very difficult place in between worlds. Well, not really. You have one world, and you're sharing it with them. So thank you all.
Good afternoon, I'm Tina Campbell. I am Mexican on my father's side from Guanajuato, and Dene on my mother's side from Arizona. I am ordained in the Episcopal Church, and I serve our diocese as the Indigenous Missioner. Just recently, the Episcopal Church has begun to set up a vehicle for doing research into learning the church's involvement in boarding schools. We know that there were, well, we don't know, we understand that there are 4 schools, were 4 schools in our diocese up here in Northern California, this part. And the Episcopal Church really doesn't know what its involvement was because those records were never kept. So I'm here to listen and to learn. One of the other actions from the convention was growing awareness of land acknowledgements. So a number of our congregations are working on land acknowledgements, and I've been working with them through Redbud Resource, who's been helpful to us in beginning that process. So I thank you. I thank you that this is an open meeting. I've been following the tracks, and they haven't always been open to the public, and so I was really glad that this one was here, so close to home and open to the public.
My name is Mike Duncan. That's my brother from another mother. I'm Mark Corbeau. So I'm from Pit River, and folks are climbing Pit River blood. That's beautiful. Chimisunwi, that's Pit River language for how are you doing? And the foundation of the gathering work that we're doing is truth and healing. And if you're thankful for what you have, if everything is kind of going okay, then the response is tusi sunwi. Everything's pretty good. Doesn't have to be perfect. Everything's pretty good. You're thankful for what you have. Maybe you're blessed with the ability to see with 2 eyes or 1 eye. Maybe you're blessed to hear with 2 ears, or you can only have one side of your cranium has hearing. Whatever you have, it's important to be thankful for it. It is a blessing, the goodness that has been bestowed upon you. So I think that very much is a part of this truth and healing process. So introductions, gosh, you give an Indian a microphone and say introduce yourself. They got to talk about their villages, the Genesis story,
3 hours, Mark.
Yeah, Aku, Satipla, Mount Shasta, Mount Lassen, and Medicine Lake. But so I'm Maui band, Pit River, Hamaui band, Pit River, and Atskeli on my mother's side. According to BIA records, all her sisters and brothers are 4/4 Pit River. So I'm the oddball, right? Split in half because of my dad. My dad is from Cheyenne River, so I got two kinds of river blood, Indian blood flowing through my veins. But a little bit more about me. Born in Shasta County in a public hospital that was shut down a long time ago. Mama left my dad because he was a mean man. And Mama worked 2 jobs, went to Chico State, was a phenomenal English major that could never really finish school because she was taking care of me and my 2 older sisters. Paying rent, we were blessed to have a family from Ohio move over here, and they bought some land, and the husband built a house out of recycled framing, and Mama paid $90 a month, for that place, 5 acres. So I was raised in that home, and although we weren't rich financially, we were wealthy in terms of a happy, healing, safe environment with tradition and culture. So I wouldn't change that for $1, let alone, you know, $100 million. I wouldn't give that up. So, Mama said go to school. So I went to Humboldt State, graduated from there, have a certificate from the Indian teacher program. Mama passed on. Mama never came to me in my dream and said, Mark, stop going to school. So I kept going. So I went into the master's program at UC Davis, started working for this company called California Rural Indian Health Board in 1999. So I was calculating this. We're in Phoenix in consultation with the feds this week. And this year, it's like 24 years I've been working in that same place. And I went back to school and got a PhD. So I still got to learn because Mama said, right? It's kind of like that Waterboy movie, you know, Water Sound. That's kind of me. Mama said, raise my kids. So I did. Yeah, my son and daughter, they're healthy, graduated from college. Son completed 4 years in a Sundance type of ceremony. Yeah, they're healthy and I'm really thankful and blessed. So to see, I have a lot to be thankful for. I got a bummed knee, a hurt shoulder, and other challenges, but overall I'm doing pretty good.
Hi, my name is Leah Hawkins. I'm an enrolled member of the Chickasaw Nation, and I work for Dr. LeBeau as his assistant. And I see a lot of leaders here that I really appreciate, and just want to say happy birthday, Albert.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm going to move so everybody can see me and I can see you. My name is Alyssa Nelson, and I am here for the first time, although I have really weird feedback. Oh, okay, you know what? Can you all hear okay? Because these are like interacting with each other. Okay. I'm here for the first time in person, but I have followed along virtually since very early on. And so I only know a couple of you, but a lot of you I feel like I know, but you don't know me, so that's a little weird. So if I'm awkward in any kind of interaction, just attribute it to that or just my general awkwardness. I was thinking how to be succinct, so that is my goal here, but I also want to take this opportunity to introduce myself. As the daughter of recent immigrants and longtime settlers, all from various parts of Europe. I live here in Sacramento now, in the area of town that is also Milco, or sometimes known as Plains Miwok. I grew up in the Mojave Desert part that I now know is Katanamuk land in the foothills of the Tehachapi's. And I have family connections that go back to early Anglo settlement. And a great-great-grandfather who joined the Union Army from here in California and walked to Arizona and participated in the things that happened there. So I'm drawn to building relationship and being in community with people to understand our shared and unshared experiences. I also am a member of a Quaker community and participate in a number of Quaker groups in locally, state, national, and international. I'm here as an individual, though, and not representing any of them, but I will mention the name of one, Decolonizing Quakers, that I have been part of, and I'd be very glad to listen and answer any questions and participate in any way that feels good. I have experience working mainly with youth and communities, intergenerational communities with focus on youth, including with some California tribal nations and communities. I think there was something else I wanted to say about that, but I'll let that go. The last thing I want to say is, Secretary Snider, congratulations on your fellowship to get to go to Australia and Aotearoa, New Zealand. I had the opportunity in 2016 to be invited by Quakers in Australia to come, and part of that was in learning about the histories there and the shared work toward justice for First Nations, Aboriginal, and Torres Strait Islanders. So I know that you have a wonderful opportunity ahead of you, and I have told all my friends there and in Ontario that you are coming and to expect you and to welcome you. Thank you.
I'll tell folks a little bit about it when we get back to updates.
Good afternoon. I'm Kim McCoy-Wade, and I work in the Governor's Office with Secretary Snider and Loretta and Michael. I'm the Governor's Advisor on Aging and Disability and Alzheimer's.
I'm the real Mark Monroe. I'm Mark Monroe, director. Good afternoon, Mike Duncan, and I have affiliation with Sac State. I'm a Sac State baby. My parents met here, so I didn't technically go to school here, but I technically went to school here. Still waiting for my certificate. But I'm also the executive director of Native Dads Network. It's here in Sacramento, California, and Albert explain what we do there. There's a lot of work with inside tribal communities here. I'm an enrolled member of the Round Valley Indian Tribes, which is, when we talk about truth and healing, there's 7 tribes on that reservation that was marched into there. It's Yuki land, what they call Yuki land, but none of the tribes that I'm affiliated with on that reservation come from that area. I live in what they call Woodland today, Putwin territory. So I'm Putwin, I'm Maidu from Ball Rock, that's where my great-great-great-great-grandmother is from, and I'm Wailaki on my father's side, and Western Band Shoshone Tomok on my mother's side, and she's Filipino as well. Both grandparents on both ends of on both sides were in boarding schools, Sherman and Stewart. So we have intergenerational trauma passed down from generational trauma and so forth since the beginning of time, colonization for my people. I'm really thankful to be alive, and I'm thankful to be here too, because one of the things I think about when we talk about intergenerational trauma, I wasn't raised in a household that was pleasant. There's so much things that have gone on that you didn't really realize was non-normal, that wasn't normal and unnormal, and then when you start to get into these groups and you start to learn what historical trauma is and intergenerational trauma is, and you feel like, man, I was in some rough places, and I'm thankful to be alive. Just again, because there's a lot of opportunities for me not to be alive, I guess. A lot of bad choices in my life. But also, again, be thankful that I was sharing with somebody, and yesterday we were talking about my children, and and when we talk about intergenerational healing, and I'm here more for that. Where we look at, I want to look at solutions, partnerships, growth, and then again, to help the future generations. That's really my focus. Our focus with Native Dads at this moment is really how can we make sure that indigenous erasure doesn't happen, continue, and again, what my part into bringing the truth and the things that have been told as I was growing up. The lies and all the things that I was growing up as, all the lies. And so just, being part of that and trying to be part of the solution. That's why I'm here today. This is the second time I think I was in the first one in San Francisco, I believe, at the Friendship House, and being part of that and to see it kind of circulate and back here on this territory, I'm proud to see where it goes. Thank you.
Hi everybody, I'm Brian Baker. I'm a professor here in Native Studies at Sacramento State. I'm originally from just the other river people here. I'm from Bad River Reservation in northern Wisconsin. And and I just hear people referencing problems and issues of colonialism, that we still struggle with those and trying to resolve those today. And so I just want to sort of mention that another one has to do with allotment and the fractionalization of land. For about 3 times a year, I receive a letter from the Bureau of Indian Affairs about my individual Indian money account. And then it lists all these allotments that I'm connected to in reservations in northern Minnesota, northern Wisconsin, and northern Michigan. And then it also gives me an update on the money part, when I started getting these letters all the time, it was unsent. So I'm proud to say that income has doubled. Now it's not 2 cents. But I'm not sure how much money they spend to send out these letters all the time. It's just kind of crazy. But I'm glad that everybody's here. Today it's good to see some people around the table. Some of them I know. I was thinking about introducing myself as the real Mike Duncan. Wasn't there like a show years ago where people did that? Anyway, it was weird. Anyway, I'm Brian Baker. I'll turn it over to the next person.
I'm Spartacus. No. Hi, everyone. My name is Jason McCannell. I am the Research and Development Program Consultant at the Director's Office of California State Parks. And just this week, I signed an agreement with the Governor's Office to be doing the research and writing work in the background for the Truth and Healing Council report. So I'm on this ride until the end now. And I'm really happy to be here. I kind of started on this work back when I was in the governor's office in the Brown administration. I am responsible, I'm both proud and a little bit nervous to say, for the Digital Atlas of California Native Americans, at which you can, well, if you're interested, I'll talk to you later. I am also currently serving on the advisory committee on reconciliation and place names at the Department of the Interior, where I was appointed last year by Secretary Holland. That is sort of following on the work that was done with the S word, that we're looking at other derogatory words that should be removed from the map by similar secretarial action. There's a few other things I do. I don't want to be long-winded here. I do want to say that if anybody in the ethnic studies faculty wants a Nobel Prize, I invite you to study my family. I don't know where I come from. I kind of don't care, but I really have learned a lot just by sort of following along with this work. It dawned on me sometime last year that healing is my job as well as truth. I'm a research guy. I get all the facts, but I can't really do this work unless I heal too. And some of the vocabulary that we use here, like intergenerational trauma, like that's helped me understand a lot of things about myself too. So this work spills over outside the community, and I think that a lot of us out there are very much in need of truth and healing. It's part of the same thing, because if you build yourself around a lot of lies, you can't heal until you understand what the truth really is. So thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Christina, especially. I'm just so blessed to be here. Thank you, Creator.
Hasasaga, Nikki Yonkakan, Calvin Hedrick, Sila Ma'a, Hope No Ma'a, Yatoma Toma'a. I just said, hi, I'm not Mike Duncan. I'm Mountain Maidu, and I grew up in Lassen, Plumas County. I'm up in that area where my family's from, the area of Quincy and Greenville and Genesee Valley, up in that area. I currently live here in Sacramento with my wife and my children. I have 6 children, 3 biological sons, and then three daughters who we've raised and are raising. I work for a couple of different programs. The Fifth Direction, which is a program I started a long time ago working with Native American youth, which I've been working with Native youth for about almost 25 years. And the Fifth Direction works with youth in cultural programs, educational programs, leadership programs, mental health, drug, alcohol, suicide prevention. I also work for the California Native Vote Project, which is based in Los Angeles, but we have 3 staff here in Sacramento. Just hired one this week. And with the California Native Vote Project, what we're trying to do is build Native voting power, Native political power, build the power of Native American communities throughout California to make to create really meaningful change in every community in California. And so they started out in Los Angeles in 2016, and have been kind of growing since, and we're still growing. We just had our first Power Building Fellowship, which brought in 20 Native people from California from all different corners of California to help build and do the work that we're doing. So we're really super excited about that. I've worked with youth for a long time, and one of the issues that I've had, we talk a lot about mental health services today. We have the highest rates of suicide of any other people, and we definitely can track some of that back to public school curriculum and the way that Native American public school curriculum is approached. And we know, and so does the state, that public school curriculum is not accurate, it's not correct, it's not even close. But as we were told several years ago by the state, yes, we know that it's not accurate, but it's what we've been teaching, and we need to ease people into this, so we're going to continue to teach it. It's very frustrating, and I've seen over the last few years great strides throughout California to help change some of that curriculum. One of the things that it hits me all the time, but one of the things that hit me was I was teaching a class at Chico State University in Native American literature, and every semester that I taught that, 5 total semesters, I'd have students, non-native students, come to me and say, I feel like I've been lied to my entire public school career. One student, I always quote, he says, Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, and California public school curriculum are just so wrong. It's something that we grow up with, and then we find out that none of it was true. And so I always use that quote, but it's true that changing curriculum not only benefits our Native American students and benefits our Native American communities, but also benefits the community as a whole. And so, that's something that I've been working on a long time. I work with young community organizers who, as a community organizer, I'm training them to be community organizers. They're between the ages of 14 and 24. And last year they started a campaign in one specific school district here in the Sacramento area, San Juan, to change, to ask the school district, make these changes and let's see what happens, and then we're going to take it to other school districts. And so after last year, we've kind of gone through it. We're still working with them, but now we're in Sac City and Davis Joint and Elk Grove, and hopefully soon Washington. We need to talk after this. But it definitely is something that I think is very important, is addressing that. And again, it's really frustrating to have people say, yes, we know that we're teaching inaccurate history. But there's nothing we can do about it. And I think that it's time that we as a community say, okay, yeah, there is something that we can do about it. So just sort of working in that direction. And there's a lot of other things that I'd love to be able to talk about, but I just wanted to hit on that. So thank you.
Aikui Nakna Virginia Hedrick, Shregon Mewamechek, Nakpulik Law, Nares Calvin Hedrick. Hi, Virginia Hedrick. I'm a member of the Yurok tribe and the executive director of the California Consortium for Urban Indian Health, and the wife to Calvin Hedrick. And a mother of 5 kids. Sakui has a subcontract through the California Department of Public Health in partnership with the Governor's Office to support the Truth in Healing Council, and so grateful to you, Albert, for being here today. And so I don't even know how many I've been to, but it's a number, and it's my second one with my husband. We went to the first one down by the river in March, so this is a good one to come back to.
A little warmer. A little warmer.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, thanks for everybody for being here, and please do see me as a resource, as well as Albert, if you need that space today.
Hi, my name is Boadamo Musupje. I'm the Associate Dean in the College of Social Sciences and Interdisciplinary Studies, and my home department is Ethnic Studies. I was invited here by Dr. Reed because I am from South Africa and I lived through the apartheid system. And then in South Africa, we had the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. And Dr. Reed wanted me to come and listen and participate and share the experiences from South Africa. Unfortunately, I have a meeting at 3:00. I don't know how long I will stay, but I am available. through Dr. Reed. You can always reach me through Dr. Reed. I wanted to stay and listen. I will stay until 3 o'clock, so I'm happy to be here and thank you.
When I introduced myself, I said my name and then I said, you know, what positions I did, but I didn't say why I'm here. And to me, that's really important because I've heard all of you, and first of all, I think it's really important to protect our homelands and to protect the lands that we come from and our ancestors who are in those lands, you know. So, you know, a lot has been stolen and has been taken without, you know, our consent, and somehow we need to work through that. Also, I really, you know, was thinking about all the boarding schools, and I think that's an important part because my aunties and uncles and grandparents went to Chemawa, to Stewart, to Sherman, to Hoopa during that time, and I remember her telling me when we talk about these boarding schools, my gosh, she told me, you know, about different young girls who were sexually molested, you know, by the people at the boarding schools, the teachers and people who are there. And so that's something that's really difficult for a lot of our elders who went through that to talk about. And myself, I feel like I'm this generation between a lot of the elders that went through that and some of you here. In fact, when Mark LeBeau down there started talking about his shoulder was hurting and what, your hip and leg or something over there. And I'm remembering you as like this young Indian guy out at Youth and Elders, you know, running around. And so I'm really dating myself here because, I mean, some of you that are sitting there talking about ailments, it's like I saw you running around as kids and I was already an adult then. So anyway, it's good to see you here. And then, you know, some of you going through Sac State, you know, because Raina and a lot of others here used to be in my classes, you know, and you know, I knew you from years ago at Martin and, you know, different ones. So, but I feel like, you know, I'm thinking about what some of the people who were before me, you know, had talked with me and told me about. And then I'm listening to what you're saying too, and also, you know, my own generation. And when somebody, I forgot who it was, said that after, I think it was you, and you said that after that your sons had to, you know, continue on with your work. That's what I keep seeing happening. Because we're here already continuing the work of our ancestors, you know, because it's not new. And then at some point I'm thinking, our ancestors have been fighting ever since contact, you know, to try to retain culture and who they are, you know, while colonization is happening. And so each generation keeps handing it off, and how do we make meaningful strides? And so anyway, those are type things I'm kind of thinking about, because I'm trying to connect different generations and different things that each of our generations have gone through. And then I heard you about the drug problem, you know, in our communities today. And so, you know, there's people a lot of time who are not from Native communities who talk about the drug problem, but it's really different when you're looking through, and, you know, in my case, you see people who have, you know, that you used to take care of, and, you know, the kids, and all of a sudden they're ODing, and, you know, you're losing them. And so it's really difficult and very different. So anyway, thankful for all of you who bring up all of these very hard truths. And the fake Mike Duncan over there, Mark. Every time I look at you, I still remember you out at DQU and all those days with the Risleys and all them, so I'll leave that.
Keep that. We also had Courtney Coyle in the back, and we can have her introduce herself when she has a minute, if she comes back in. Okay, so now we all know who's in the room. Thank you, and we'll be in touch.
Yes. Thank you.
We know who's in the room. Do we know where bathrooms are? Do we know where bathrooms are?
Yes, if you go out the door and then make a kind of a left that way, you'll see them. Well, you have to keep walking, and they're kind of hidden, but you'll eventually see them.
So in case anyone needs a break, that's where the bathrooms are. Please feel free to get up, stretch, get some water, get some snacks, get some coffee. And we're just gonna go over very quickly, what is the Truth in Healing Council? I think a lot of you are, at least have some familiarity. Some of you apparently know everything about it. And have been watching since day one. But we'll just kind of go over what it is, what the expectations are, and then turn it back to all of you to just hear a bit more about what you would like to see from this process. Ultimately, this is supposed to be a community and native-driven process. We designed it that way so that it would be something that the community would actually own and want, reflect what the community wanted to see from this process. But this was created in 2019 under an executive order from the governor, Executive Order N-1519. And in that executive order, which was almost exactly 4 years ago, he apologized for the genocide committed by the state of California to California Native Americans. And he also created this body called the California Truth and Healing Council to really look at what is the real truth that needs to be told about what happened here in California that's inclusive of the California Native experience. Clarify that historical record so that it wasn't being told by the state or by state actors about what the history was here. And then also to look at remedial recommendations to address the harms felt by California Native people. So not what the state thinks it needs to do to make everybody feel okay, but what do California Native people really feel are the worst things that happened? Not even the worst things that happened, but the things that happened, and how do California Native people propose to go on the right path towards healing from those harms felt? A lot of what we've seen throughout history that have been purportedly more kind of restitution-oriented laws, policies, and practices have been imposed by government authorities that aren't Native and that don't necessarily take into account what Native people think needs to happen. And so, for example, the boarding school era, from some perspectives, was a well-intentioned way of assimilating Native people into society for their own good. We know that's not what happened. We know that it was actually really problematic, but Native people and Native perspectives and Native culture was not incorporated into that thought process. And it was really done from the perspective of a colonizer culture who thought assimilation was best for their culture and best for everybody who wanted to stick around in that culture. So what we're doing here is trying to shift how those kind of policies and practices are created and really start from the ground up by listening to California Native people about what's happening right now, listening to California Native people about where are the opportunities for California Native people that they see to not only feel more included in society, but to excel in society and reclaim the space that has always been California Native, but has looked less Native as assimilation practices, as boarding schools, as kind of the invisibility of Native people has been more effectively completed by the dominant culture. So that's a very high level, probably a confusing way of framing what this process is, but really it's a multi-year process of listening, understanding what that history and what that story should be from the Native perspective, and what are the things that the state can do in partnership with the federal government, or that citizens of California can do to make Native people feel more whole based on that history. How it is structured is that there is a 12-member council with 4 alternates from throughout the state. They're not representative of their locations, but they are meant to provide a diversity of experience and voice to this process in governing how the process moves forward. Technically, all California Native people are members of this council and have a voice in this process. And the overarching council, that's the governing council, governs which way the recommendations go, how it's structured, any kind of procedural outcomes, and then also ultimately, shaping that final report. The governing council is responsible for creating a final report, both of that story, which can be multiple stories, but reframing what that narrative should look like, what the experience of California should look like, the early years of California, and then also those remedial recommendations. Those can be things like policy shifts, they can be things like curriculum shifts, they can be things like budget shifts, they can be recommendations about how people go about working with local Native people to give land back, to bring them into the curriculum, to fund their efforts, and really, kind of do right by the people of that place. The council also has subcommittees. Several of you may have signed up already, and those subcommittees look at kind of the lens through which their experience will be applied to this work. So we have a youth subcommittee, we have an elders subcommittee, we have a status and identity subcommittee. So for everything under examination of the council, that subcommittee will look at it and say, why does this have like a specific impact on our population? And what are the things on top of the baseline recommendations and the baseline narrative that we need to include in this space for us to be made whole as well? And that's really the effort at implementing equity across the report, is to make sure that these specific considerations have a little bit more thoughtful thought, and that those recommendations are also built for the communities that they're supposed to be built for. In addition, the report itself will be broken up into specific issue areas. So for example, criminal justice or access to justice in Indian country would be potentially a specific issue area. The natural landscapes and places, specific issue area that has specific recommendations and a specific history. So for each of those, just so people are understanding kind of how this all works together, each subcommittee would look at each one and say, I'm in the elders subcommittee, access to plants and resources is something that means a lot to me because I'm also a weaver and I want to be able to come and go without having to validate myself and just be able to have free access to my ancestral spaces. And it's really important to me for the transmission of culture. That may be a different thing for someone who is from a non-federally recognized tribe. Because of the current policies, they might not have access at all because it's dependent on having a tribal ID or a CEID. So that's kind of conceptually what this all looks like. Right now we're in the process of listening, learning, and then having specific focus. And so we have these listening sessions where we hear from all of you. So I will stop talking very shortly and we'll hear more from all of you. And we hear from you about what you're thinking about, what's on your heart, what is the current struggle, what's something that you've been advocating for a very long time and haven't gotten reception. Now is the time that we can try to force that reception and put it into a space where it might be more palatable to a government and a community that wants to do right by Indian people. But then also we have quarterly meetings. And so we had our last quarterly meeting in May. I don't know what time is it anymore. In Tahoe. Time isn't real, that's real. So our last quarterly meeting, we had one day at Palisades in Tahoe to understand a little bit more about the decades-long fight to rename spaces that were offensive, and also some of the challenges of the Washoe people who are from Lake Tahoe, who literally can't afford to live in Lake Tahoe and access the places that are their sacred spaces. And then went to Carson City to Stewart Indian School to be in that space as well. So part of this is overlapping policies that the federal and the state government have been responsible for. So the boarding schools, we've been to Sherman Indian School, we've been to Stewart Indian School. And part of why we hold space in those places is that we know for a lot of Indian people, they won't go to those places unless there is an easy way to go there, because the mental, emotional, historical trauma creates such a burden that the additional burdens of access just feel like too much sometimes. So we know that there are people who won't want to be in those spaces, but for those who do, we try to create that access and make sure that people can be in the place that their ancestors survived in, went through a lot to ensure their survival and existence, and so want to make sure that that's a part of this too. So we'll also be, before this report is finished, going to Chemawa and then some of the schools that have closed, like Fort Bidwell, who does kind of an annual commemoration every October. So regional meetings, our next meeting is in July. Loretta, do you want to talk a bit about that?
So our next quarterly meeting, there's a flyer on the table outside. It will be in July on the North Coast. So on July 21st, we'll be at Cal Poly Humboldt, and that's a Friday. And then July 22nd, we will be in Klamath at the Redwood RV Park, which is right on the river. That'll be an outdoor day. Really looking forward to that. Prior to that meeting, we will also be hosting our first in-person subcommittee meeting, and that will take place in the afternoon at Suwig State Park in the Red Elder campground. And that's an afternoon session, and it'll be our first in-person convening of the subcommittees, which Christina mentioned earlier. And so that information will be going out next week.
That'll be on a Thursday.
Yeah, that'll be on that Thursday, so that is the 20th. Math is not my strong point. But yes, it'll be on the 20th.
Time doesn't matter.
Yeah. So that's on the 20th. The 21st is in Arcata. The 22nd is in Klamath. And then we're also looking at, so outside there's also a flyer that has the map of California, and you can kind of see where we have been, where we are going for the rest of this year, and on the back side of that are tentative dates. Again, these are subject to change, but we use our best effort to maintain those dates. And so in August, we're looking at doing a regional hearing in the Eastern Sierra region, and so be on the lookout for more information once we get those locations confirmed.
Anything else you want to add?
Okay. So I think that is kind of a snapshot of where things are at. We also do government to government consultation. And so if your tribe has not reached out to us yet, we've reached out to everybody, but we know everybody's not always ready. So we'll keep reaching out. We've had several of those, and those are, just so people understand the process. We'll basically set up kind of an initial consultation, which is typically via Zoom, just to give tribes an idea of like what we're doing here, how they can get involved, how they can do submissions. Submissions can be orally and recorded, or they can also just be written submissions about what that tribe specifically wants their story to be reflected as. So it kind of changes depending on the tribe, and just wanted to put that out there, that is also an opportunity. Those consultations are off the record. We think it's important to make sure that there is a space of openness and the ability to ask questions. So we just do those as closed meetings where we talk about what that tribe might want to see from this council in the future and how they can get involved and what frankly the benefit would be of getting involved. And so then we put it on the tribe as to whether they'd like to have a follow-up, or they do have a recorded meeting and submission, or whether they'd like to submit something in writing. Other updates, Loretta has ordered this, but it's actually available online. And if you have a Kindle subscription, it's actually free with that. The New York Review of Books published an article under Ed Viliami, who is kind of a big deal in international reporting. He's right now in Ukraine following that, but came out last year at our March meeting and met with many of the council members and several of you who are here today, and was kind of a model of non-extractive reporting, submitted everything that he wanted to write to every person that he had talked to make sure that it reflected what they had actually said and how they meant to say it. And the final product is in the most recent issue of the New York Review of Books, which this is the print copy that Loretta got her hands on. The print copy is $15, so maybe the e-copy is better, but if anyone wants to take a look, it's up here. And then also, as was mentioned before, I've gotten the privilege and opportunity of being selected as what I've been told is the first Native Eisenhower Fellow in the history of the fellowship. And thank you. And my proposal is to go to Australia and to New Zealand to work with and to learn from both the Aboriginal populations and the Maori populations, but also the non-Indigenous populations who have engaged in restorative justice processes in both places. As many of you may be aware, if you are aware of global truth and reconciliation processes, New Zealand began a truth and reconciliation process back in the 1970s, which was basically, their constitution is actually a treaty between the Maori and the English people who came there. And so it was basically, there was a different version in Maori understanding and in Maori language from what was put in English and English understanding. And so it was reconciling what is the difference between these two things and how do we fully get what we thought we were getting in our version of it. And so it's still ongoing. And so has been ongoing since 1970, but what you'll see is in New Zealand, there's just a whole different way of embracing Maori culture, but also clearly some differences because it's not quite the same as California, but they do have quite a few lessons learned and things that they've done in New Zealand. And then in Australia, they underwent a similar process in the 1990s that started as it did in Canada based on an examination of the boarding school era in Australia. A good example of that is the film Rabbit Proof Fence, if anybody has seen that. But then started this whole broader examination of truth and reconciliation and what happened in Australia. So they're at a different phase, but have a bit more similar diversity of peoples and languages and geography, but do not have, similar kind of federal recognition processes and jurisdictional authorities. So what I'll be doing there is learning, understanding what worked in those places, what was kind of societal pushback, and how did people overcome that? Did they feel like it was largely successful? What do they think were lessons learned that we could import here, and what would just not be workable and we should just not even consider them? So really excited to learn from them. Also really excited to enlighten this process with what they think would be a good starting point for remedial recommendations and what could really work for California Indian country. So happy to answer any questions about that, but I'm still in the planning process. I'll be gone about a month in the fall, so October, November, right around Native American Heritage Month and Indigenous Peoples Day. Just really thrilled and hopeful that it will enrich this process as well. So I'll stop talking so much. And this is the point in time when we open it up, and if there's anything that you would come prepared to talk about, if there's anything that we've just mentioned that you have questions about, feel free to jump in. If there's anything that anyone else has said anything about that you'd like to talk about, we'd love to hear it. And we have some new people if they'd like to introduce themselves as well.
No interest? Okay. Well, thank you for coming.
That's my beautiful niece, Rosie Hammock. Hey.
There you go.
Better pop up.
Don't all jump in at once. Okay.
I'll start.
Oh, let's make sure everyone has a microphone.
Thank you. I was asked to be here by a gentlewoman from the South, Angela Elliott Santos. Strong tribal leader from Kumeyaay. And
She's on our council.
I know. She's sort of delegated me to engage, help to engage youth in the processes. So I wanted to share some information with you all and get feedback too. And I know there's a number of regional meetings that you all will be attending, and just wondering if youth are, plan, if they've been outreach to attend those sessions. When we think about youth, I not only think about those that are here amongst us today, but those that are on their journey to arrive soon. And we want them to be healthy. And so even for the mothers carrying the babies, we need the mothers to be healthy also. The arrival of the babies, critically important. All phases of their growth, critically important. With the epidemic of alcohol, drugs, fentanyl impacting all communities, but in particular Native communities, especially in California, want to urge engagement, more resources and support for prevention and response and treatment for alcohol and other drug issues. And I have a lot of statistics I brought and can go deep into that, but I think we all know, right? Like the depth, some of the depth and breadth of what our communities are experiencing in regards to alcohol, illicit drugs, tranq, right? Tranq being added to some of the drugs, and are not, that eliminates the ability of Narcan to be effective also. There's a lot to deal with. There's rainbow fentanyl pills now that very pretty and cute, and I worry about the kids popping those pills also. So, but it is an epidemic. We've just gone through a pandemic. All resources, right, brought forward to support, COVID prevention and response. I think we need that same kind of power and partnership from all segments of the country in response to these ongoing issues that our communities face with regards to alcohol and other drug addiction and abuse. So yeah, I'd like to know more about the engagement of youth. It'd be awesome to have some youth here too. And Rose is here. She's definitely strong leader, grown up. We're honored. She's been a part of our work the crib long term. And have a great big poster of her in our lobby, in her beautiful regalia. And she is a leader and role model in her own right. So, but we need more Roses, right? Definitely be brought forward and to be with us. So how do how do we do that? We're here to assist at CRIT with our resources and support. Just need to do a little bit of leakages and engage more with you.
Can I?
That sounds like we have a volunteer. Go ahead.
So I would say that's why we outreach to you, right? We want to. We need assistance reaching our youth, right? I live here in the Sacramento region, in the Thomas, but to be able to hit California abroad, that's not a one-person task or even a 2-person or 15. It's our community base, and that's why there's Councilmember Elliot Santos reached out to you, right, saying, hey, you know, we need some assistance. We need that introduction. And I know Secretary Snider had reached out even before saying, you know, what Native youth-driven organizations are having programs or events, whether that's Agona or other things that we could go and we could speak to. So we've looked at trying to engage to really draw in youth. And as much as within our own communities or our neighborhoods, we hear things and do outreach, I really feel that it's only recently that we've had some really good pushes. We've had the Google Doc that went out, and I'm hopeful that we've had some youth that were involved and other folks for other subcommittees to get involved with. But it is, I look at it as grassroots. The wheel's already invented, right? Because I heard around the table so many folks that say, we're already engaged with our youth. We're doing this, we're working, we're building leaders. We just need those introductions and saying, is there someone that wants to help us? Is there a youth that wants to step forward and really be that advocate of saying, this is what I think from a youth perspective should be looked at when it comes to what is needed for the future for truth and healing for our communities. I can sit here and give recommendations or what my thoughts are, but as much as I'd like to think I'm still young, and I always introduce myself as the new kid on the block, I'm older, and I don't even know the terminology of what even my own kids are out speaking, right? And so that's why I really think that we need that involvement from our youth so that we can build the foundation that they need to achieve the goals for the generations yet to come. So I would just ask if you can help us with those introductions, if you can help us. I know Native Dads Network also does a lot of interactives with the youth. I would just say any help that we can get, and even if it's 5-10 minutes, you know, to say, hey, this is what we're about, this is how we think you can help, if there's any interest. We would definitely welcome it. I'm happy. My wife's probably gonna kill me, but I'll say I'll go wherever I have to go, you know, just to have that interaction, right? To be able to sit down with an individual, with the youth, and say, this is how I think we can help. I'm happy to help get them to where they need to be, if that's what they need. We just need that introduction. And I'll leave it there.
Totally agree. And also, I think if this effort is going to be successful, the youth need to take it up and tell us what they want the world to look like for them, so that we're not just building for what we would have wanted when we were kids, but really that, you know, what do they want to see this world look like? I will say on signups, we didn't get a lot of youth. We got a lot of people who want to help the youth. So if you have youth that want to get involved and be in leadership spaces, we would love to help. And we know that philanthropy is very interested in supporting Native youth-driven projects. And so I don't think that would be an issue. It's more about making sure that they know this is happening, and if they want to lead, to step up. Do you want to introduce yourself to the group? I think most people know who you are.
Good afternoon, my name is Connie Ruffin. I'm currently serving as the chairperson for the Pathfinders at the Circle of Native Minds in Lake County, California. Thank you.
Michael.
My name is Caesar. I'm here trying to resolve things for the Miwoks. I won't get into what band went that, because that's what I'm trying to resolve, of the proper identity of the tribe. Fiduciary documents that have been worked on by Congress for 100 years that we currently ignore today. All departments, police departments, tribal departments, everybody seems to be ignoring the original roll numbers of the California Indians. You know, they're not part of the embankment whenever a certain organization gets formed. You know, they're not using those documents that are fiduciary documents that are supposed to be our documents to be able to identify ourselves properly. Thank you.
Again, my name is Rena Horse, and I'm Peer River and Paiute. I'm here today to speak on behalf of my mother, my grandmother, and my great-grandmother, none of which could be here. None of these wonderful Pit River and Paiute women lived beyond the age of 26 years old. And I realized that, you know, nothing can be done to make up for these atrocities and pain that us as a California Native people have suffered, that our Native American women have suffered, all of our murdered and missing Indigenous people, you know, have, and families have endured. There's nothing that can be done to make up for that. But I'm very excited to be here with each and every one of you that, you know, are just dedicated to our youth, right? I mean, that's our future generations, and that's where my passion is and my heart is to be there for our Native youth. I'm very, you know, excited that Creator, you know, blessed me with, you know, with all my mentors that are in my life, that things came together, and that I've been working in education for many, many years. I've had the opportunity to work at high schools, at community colleges, at UC Davis, and now I have the opportunity to be here, to be in this space, to create change, to create something for our young people. And I'm excited about the center coming up. You know, I'm very interested in learning more about the academic partnerships that are listed here on the brochure. You know, we have a lot of wonderful ideas and plans. We'd like to create a Native living community here on campus. And most of us that are in education, once we heard the news about the UC systems, you know, waiving the tuition, like Dr. Rose mentioned, that could happen, you know, for our CSU, you know, our system. I think that is something that could open up the doors and provide so much, you know, healing for our youth, right? To have opportunity to walk in the door, to go to college, not to have to, and not to, we don't want the free tuition to take away from another grant. You know, we don't want that to be, you know, reduced. We don't want their Cal grant to be reduced because they have a free tuition, but to add to it. You know, maybe, I think the idea of a scholarship is wonderful. However, applying to a scholarship is intimidating. I think for most Native students would feel maybe I'm not, you know, my application isn't gonna, you know, be selected. So I think just providing, there are many other states that provide free tuition for, you know, the Indigenous people of that state. So that's what I really feel that we could do something. And just want to say about that much. I'm very grateful to be here with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think at some point, I think we'd like to hear more about kind of how the Native Center was conceived and what went into that, because we've heard a lot about Native youth wanting more spaces on campus as well. Two things that came to my mind just for the group, and we actually need to do a post about this, but yesterday evening, Chairman Saris was just named as the first Native regent to the UC Board of Regents. So we now have a Native representative on the UC Board of Regents. And the flip side also news is that the the state auditor just released a report on the CSU systems compliance or non-compliance with the Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act. So something to look at as well, because that I think is going to be an area of focus for the legislature moving forward.
You can think about it a little bit.
I would like to follow up on some of the comments you made regarding youth. And that's one of the things that the members at the Circle of Native Minds in Lake County are very much concerned about, as the tribal teen suicide rate continues to be very high. And we see a lot of that in our own communities. I think we really want to have some support in the Mental Health Services Act, which in the language includes outreach and engagement of unserved and underserved communities. It also provides a mechanism to provide peer counselors for communities that are unserved or underserved. So I'd like to see a lot more advocacy there to address the ongoing teen suicide among our tribal communities, throughout our tribal communities. It seems that none of the healthcare providers in the communities are engaged in promoting that in our communities. So I don't know where to, really have this addressed, because we can't seem to get a foothold in the MHSA system of outreach and engagement. And the politics involved seem to be overriding all the time. But the situation continues to be a very difficult thing for many of our families to endure. And we know that the teen suicide rate hasn't been reduced, and part of the agenda for the elders is not only to address the mental health needs of tribal elders, but to address the impact of teen suicide among our families. MHSA has a surplus of money, over $700 and some billion. And so the money isn't getting out to the communities, but the guidelines that they provide seem to limit how much outreach and engagement they are having to do. So I don't know where we can get that kind of assistance in terms of advocating for this kind of development in our tribal communities, but it would be critical for us as tribal elders to really see some change happen in addressing the teen suicide. So that continues to be a priority of ours. Thank you.
Well, if the recording could be stopped for a moment.
To the world anyways, even if we're being recorded, and yet some of us aren't really too happy with that recording, but on the same note, we're here to get our issues out and to explain to the world why you should check identification of 116 different tribes that are in California. Just the amount of tribes that are in California should be a red flag that we really need to check ID. I mean, how many of us are carrying this fiduciary document with the seal from the Bureau of Indian Affairs that designates me to speak for the Miwok tribe, to be Miwok, to say that I'm Miwok? If a person is going to be appointed on the chair, I heard a name being appointed, I don't necessarily want to say that name, but if he's going to be appointed to be part of the chair, it represents a certain tribe, he should have a roll number that shows he's Miwok. Even if he wasn't born on time, he would have a grandmother or a great grandmother that shows that he's Miwok, and we at least we feel proper. We feel proper hearing him out and letting him speak for all of us. If there's investigative reports that are from investigative reporters saying, hey, this guy's not even from a nation, he doesn't have no identification, and all of a sudden we have him as the board of the whole thing, are we really going to be able to touch on some of our subjects? I feel that anybody that's appointed to any certain chairs that we're notified, some sort of ID should be required, or at least give us some sort of explanation that we could accept to say, okay, he gets to speak for the Pomos, for the Miwoks, for the Maidus, because Congress took 100 years identifying us in our languages and our tribes. And now today, I mean, I'm the one pushing for this ID. Nobody ever asked for it. Nobody ever advocates for it or says, okay, with this group is there because they have that fiduciary roll number. These are, according to the description of Congress, these are tangible documents that we should be able to use forever. My great grandkids should be able to use these numbers. And I do have them for my children, and I'm yet to have someone say, hey, you know, you take the fiduciary step of recognizing that child and not violate the ICWA, which it gets violated every day by different counties. One county is doing one thing, and the very next county is doing something completely different regarding the identity of these children. And it's because they're influenced by maybe a casino or somebody that's, you know, in a very high level of power that should not be influencing that county. You know, there shouldn't be a contract that says we're going to support you no matter what, even if you're fakes. Because honestly, I feel that this is the biggest identity heist in history of the California Indians, and we're being replaced with this replacements, and the people who are supposed to be acknowledged for the Miwok tribe, for the Maidu tribe, for the Pomo tribe is not being acknowledged, and they're not being given a voice. Anyhow, I probably said a lot. I'm sure I have a lot more to say, but I'll pass now. Thank you for letting me speak, and I hope I'm not insulting anybody here. I don't mean to insult nobody. I just mean to protect the identity of my tribes, of the children of my tribe, and the elders who are suffering in my tribe. Thank you.
Thank you. I think touching on the issues of how we ensure that remedial recommendations get to the people that are the descendants of the genocide is going to be a really challenging subject, and we're hoping to have some help working through that with the subcommittee on status and identity. I think just also given the Supreme Court's action recently, that's also going to make this much more challenging, and thinking about what needs to be done for California Indian people, you know, as fiduciary, like under that fiduciary duty of the United States to Indian people outside of tribal status is going to be critically important. But just kind of putting that out there, that I think what you had mentioned is very kind of one of the key things that this council is going to be charged with, kind of figuring out how to do, especially if it's hoping to have recommendations that are designed to be equitable and meet people where they're at, and where things may have fallen through or have been designed to kind of obliterate, you know, any responsibility to people in California. Other thoughts?
Can we stop the recording again? It's on. Can we stop it? Oh, sure.
Only I can record it out. That's okay. I can deal with that.
I appreciate your comments, because I should have introduced myself appropriately, and I would like to do that. I am a lineal descendant of Dr. Fred Hogan, who's Havana Pomo from Clear Lake, where they record our families living there for 20,000 years. I have had the blessing of a mother and relatives who worked really hard to address the deaths of our tribal babies. And they created what is now known as California Rural Indian Health Board. But they also started the first 9 Indian health projects in the state of California. And that was because our babies were dying at 8 times the rate of any other group of people. The unfortunate thing is that our babies are still dying at 8 times the rate. And we have about 30-some Indian health projects worth millions and millions and millions of dollars. But I also want to address the idea, how do we develop outreach and engagement of our tribal people? And ITEP, Indian Teacher Education Program at Humboldt State University, has been in operation since that I remember serving on the ITEP committee for almost 50 years. And that model has not been replicated throughout this system, the educational system. The other thing is that my relatives were involved in starting an organization that really began to provide benefits and services for tribal people throughout the state of California. They developed Head Start programs on tribal lands. They developed community food and nutrition programs for elderly Indians throughout the state of California. And they had alcohol and drug program for the first time in the state of California. And they had what is called JTPA, which was employment development for tribal people. So the thing that really frustrates me as an elder is that none of these methodologies, which created a real strength-based, promoted the employment and training of our tribal people, and they created jobs in community food and nutrition and elderly nutrition programs, Head Start programs, ITEP, different programs. But nobody studies that methodology. And part of that methodology was understanding what the rights of tribal people were when we talk about benefits and services to our tribal people. So we're still struggling. If we look at the USDA food program today, how many of you get that USDA food program? Well, if you get it, you're going to get the worst kind of food that you could possibly imagine to be distributed to our tribal children and families. We have not been able to generate the political support necessary from our tribal community to change that, to change ICWA, to change how our elders are ignored. And yet we talk about tradition. So this is the kind of thing when we're looking at it. ITEP model has been very successful. They just graduated 30 or 40 some young people with their bachelor's degrees and their master's and so on and so forth. But again, it's looking at how do we replicate those programs that have been successful rather than ignore them. How come the training of our children in healthcare services is not being promoted? Why are they not being recruited in these multi-million-dollar healthcare systems that exist today? Because that was the dream of our elders. And I remember them saying, train our own to serve our own, because nobody else can understand why we do what we do. And so without this net of reaching all of us at those levels where we are, we're not at that university level in our communities, but we need to be. So how do we create that pathway? It's to train our own to serve our own, because nobody understands why we do what we do. And they won't understand. So this is what we want to continue promoting as seniors. It's wonderful to have all these programs, but if you're doing the standard operation of the United States government in the state of California, in your systems, our people continue to be ignored. And why I say that is because I work with a group of elders who have been leaders, who see the deterioration of programs and services that were originally designed for tribal people. And now we employ hundreds, now thousands of non-tribal people. And yet our children suffer because they have no hope and they commit suicide. So this is what, I don't mean to say that to be harsh or to be disrespectful in any way, but I think it's time we understand that if we don't follow in the footsteps of our elders, then we're doing the same thing that non-tribal people do to us. And this is reflected in the ongoing statistics of the care of our children. And the elders see this in our communities, and nobody will listen to us. Nobody. We have programs, tribal programs, that are funded in the hundreds of thousands of dollars to train people in healthcare systems. And you cannot get a report on what is happening with that training money. So here we are, not able to hold these agencies and organizations accountable, and yet we have leaders sitting at the table, leadership sitting at that table. We have been blinded to what the real journey has to be if our people are to survive. And the reality is at the current rates, our people are dying and the children are killing themselves. We will not be able to sustain our California tribal people in the next 7th generation. And that's based on statistics, not something I think, but statistics, if you look at what is happening in our tribal communities. So we sit here today with all our degrees, our doctorates, our BSs, our BAs, but our children still kill themselves. And we are not able, with all our cultural activities and things, to be able to save them that way. So we have to look at redesigning these systems we have developed as tribal people that have gone off to be this colonized thinking, colonized processes, and we don't recognize it. So we've got to recognize it because nobody else cares. We have to be the ones to care. We have to be the ones to invest our time. No, because nobody else will. We have California tribal people that have not been recognized, and yet they are our people. And there's no one standing up for those unrecognized tribes. So here we are. How many years has the Native American Heritage Commission been together? How many years have we been working on the Cultural Heritage Center? And we've gotten nowhere. Our people are still waiting for those things. So I appreciate the discussion here, the interest here, but I really call upon people to look at it from a cultural perspective, because our people are suffering. That's why we come here. That's why I'm here, because I go out there and our children at our rancheria have no beds to sleep in. They have no running water. They no way to wash their clothes to go to school no way to have, and yet our leadership is making hundreds of thousands of dollars. And you go from tribal community, and that investment's not being made. So our children do not have those things to survive, and guess what happens? They get starved. So we don't want to go down that road, because that's another road our parents are engaged in, and it costs money. So the reason I know this, I've been on a student attendance review board. You know why I know this? Because I've been on an Indian health board. You know why I know this? Because I've been an executive director, and I know what the needs are. We're looking at addressing the needs of our missing and murdered women. Where are people taking the time to sit at a table and develop the policy, procedures, and handbooks about when you call CHP, this is what they're going to do. When you get a tribal TRO, this is what they're going to do.
Hopefully check ID.
So here we are at the table talking about what we need to do, but we can't get anyone to do something. We can talk about it till we're blue in the face, but where are we getting together at the table talking about these things? And we have people with BAs, masters, doctorate degrees, but we can't sit at the table with our elders and hear what that history was, how we got here, how these people are now making $150,000 a year here in our community. But we have no time to sit and work on the steps. So I look at the goals that these people did in the early years under a tribal association, where the benefits and service started coming to our people. And we need to know how that happened. We need to know how CRIB was formed, why CRIB was formed. And we need to pledge to that long term to train our own, to serve our own, because nobody else understands why we do what we do. So this is what I come for as a tribal woman who is a descendant of a doctor, an Indian doctor, and my people have been here for over 20,000 years. And I sit here because I see no future for the children from my tribe because of their current conditions. And our leaders are making thousands and thousands of dollars, and our children still suffer. Go to any rancheria, you're gonna see that. So here, how do we as leaders, how do we as providers create those opportunities, create that change based on our traditional beliefs and our cultural practices. So I just want to share that because it has been devastating for our tribal elders to sit at the table time after time and be totally ignored by all the service systems, the schools, the health programs, the education programs, all of them ignore what is happening. And yet it's our family members that are cutting their throats, that are hanging themselves, that are jumping off of bridges, that are overdosing. And I can tell you there's no pain greater than losing your relatives when they're only in their babies. But you know why they do that? Because they have no hope. This is the message that we as intellectuals and educated people are delivering to our own tribal people. If we cannot sit at the table and address these issues through mechanisms that we need to work for our children and families. So I just share that, and I don't mean it to be negative. I'm only talking from my heart and what I've been hearing for the past 3 years that our Pathfinders, well, several years that the Pathfinders have been trying to find somebody who would address what is happening to our children. So I don't know if that happens in other communities, but I know in our community we're losing our children and our elders at a rapid rate. No hope. That's the message. We are all sending our children. They have no hope. So I know a lot of people in here are working hard to address these things, but we have to look at how we're doing that and look at what other pathways we can create for healing throughout our communities. Because it's not just happening on our rancheria. Our relatives in other areas, Grindstone, Elam, Robinson, Panola, all over are losing children. So I thank you for listening, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. So we are a bit over the hour. If anyone else wanted to share something, we can allow for that. And then we'll close with a blessing.
I think Albert wanted to speak a while ago, but he wasn't able to jump in. Why don't you say something, Albert?
Not to put you on the spot or anything.
If you want to. I don't mean to put you on the spot. Sorry.
I appreciate that, Caesar. And I love you, Connie. It's good to see you. I haven't seen you in a while. So it's really a blessing to see you and sharing your heart, because I felt every word of that. I again want to thank Sikui for inviting me out to share and be a part of this listening session. And so I was refraining from making comment because I was in that capacity today, to listen and to observe and to be available for others who may have heard something here today that triggered some emotion, a memory, maybe even trauma. And so I do have a lot to share. And when you give me the microphone to share, I don't know when to shut up sometimes. I try to be in the realm of Mark LeBeau and Mike Duncan. Hey, give me the mic, boy. Don't ask me to talk, Caesar. Don't invite me to a party and tell me to shut up. Hey. So there's a lot to share. And, like I shared in the beginning, I've been working in the field of healing, wellness, and recovery for about 22 years now. And I don't have a master's degree. Started a bachelor's degree here at Sac State many years ago, and was blessed to work at the Sacramento Native American Health Center under the blessings from, my sister, Britta Guerrero, and learned a lot while there. She gave me the opportunity to become the manager of a behavioral health department. I worked in clinical practice for many years and grew and learned a lot about working in tribal community, both urban, rural, and frontier. And what I realized over time is that it felt like I became a hamster in the hamster wheel. It's like, we're doing all this good work, but man, it felt like we're not getting anywhere. with suicide rates and overdose rates. And recently with the pandemic, you know, overdose death rates skyrocketing, right? Fentanyl crisis. So as the opioid crisis was being addressed both, you know, governmentally and then, you know, top-down kind of approach, we realized that it pushed opioid addiction back to the streets. That's what we're seeing, fentanyl. And what I realized is when we talk about culture, like our elder is sharing, cultural integration is beautiful. I mean, I've been really forging ahead with that, both personally in my personal life and then in practice, you know, clinic. And what I realized is that it's felt like it's been, again, the hamster wheel, but really backwards. So we're trying to integrate culture into Western approach, when in fact, we've been here the whole time. Like, it's the reason why we're here. We think about language, coming of age ceremonies, roundhouse, brush dance, deer dance. I mean, those ceremonies have kept us alive. The language is what's kept us alive. It's the reason we get to sit in this place today, talking about truth. It's the truth and healing. And so when, you know, I decided to step away from clinical practice because I planned it. I could have retired from there. It's been beautiful. But what I realized is, you know, Creator was calling me. So I went to work for the tribe. And then I stayed there and helped them develop some things. And then I've been working on, you know, the Native Dads Network, grassroots organization that I'm really passionate about. I'm a father of 5. I'm a grandpa of 15. That's a fatherhood role, being a grandfather, right? That means that I've been around long enough to know what it means to be a father. What I realized is, man, Mike, you know, had this vision many years ago and asked me to help him out, and I said, absolutely, let's do it. What do we need to do? I want to do a 501c3. Well, that's what we need to do. We did it, and I've been the board chair ever since, and decided more recently that I wanted to involve myself more in that. And here's the kicker, y'all, for me. And I know, like I said, I can talk a lot. So Caesar, you asked me to talk. Is I'm not an enrolled member of the tribe.
There's what I want to talk about. That's what I want to talk about.
I haven't been.
That's,
and I know that's what Caesar was alluding to.
That's what I want to talk about.
And for a long time that bothered me. And I'm actually a disenrolled member of the tribe. And so when I went to, it was my father's enrolled member, my grandmother, my grandfather, all enrolled members of tribes. And when I went to ask for help from the tribe that I believed I was enrolled in, they said, oh, you're not enrolled in this tribe. I said, what are you talking about? I've been getting newsletters for years.
Mega million corruption.
And so what I realized at that time is, well, you know what? That's fine. You know, at that time I was already involved in the trajectory of my life, that I had goals, I had visions, I'd been to the mountain, I fasted, I did all of those things that I needed to do that I was told to do culturally. And the answers came to me. You don't need a roll member to do this work, right? You don't need the federal government to tell you you're Indian to do this work. You don't need the tribe to tell you this is God's work, right? This is the Creator's work. This is the work of the people. And so I came off that mountain and I shared that with some relatives, and they said, absolutely, Albert, you've been doing it. Your ancestors, you're direct descendants of treaty signers and tribal leaders. Like, you don't have to prove that to nobody, it's in your DNA. And so for me, the work that we're doing now, we've established it, we're all here, right? We've learned the foundations. Because if the government had their way, we damn sure wouldn't be in this, excuse my language, we sure wouldn't be sitting in this circle talking about the things we're talking about. I wouldn't be opening with a prayer and wouldn't just the gata, offering a Tuda song. And so the beauty of it is, here we are. This is the truth. We are in healing. Just by sitting in this room today, having these discussions, you know, opening our heart, whether you're sharing love, and it sounds like anger, or you're sharing love and it sounds like fear. You're sharing love and it feels like love, and so from the youngest to our eldest, and I love Dr. Reed, admired her from a distance for a long time. And when I was asked by Dr. Reed herself, she called me one day on the phone, Albert, I need you to come and do a prayer. I was like, how did you get my phone number? Hey.
I don't even know how I got it.
And the beautiful thing is I've had the same number for like 20 years and her name popped up. Dr. Reed. I was like, oh, I'm answering that. I forget where I was at, but it's a beautiful thing. Connie Reitman, same thing. These are all elders that I've admired for a long time. And some of the elders that have gone on, like my grandma and my grandpa. My mama just crossed. We just sent her home on Saturday. My mama is like, man, the ultimate, right? And then, my other grandma, she's an Orr from Medici Valley, Pitt River Nation. Her sister, we just sent her, Rose Orr Clinton. She lived in elder housing there for a long time. And I remember going to visit her when I found out, because I never knew my grandma. Went to visit her years ago. And I asked her, can I call you grandma? Because I never knew my grandma. She started sharing these stories, and she shared her perspective of boarding school. Now, I've been blessed to travel around with an organization called White Bison. And they've sent me to Canada. They've sent me to all these different places from the east to the west and north and south. And I've sat in a room of people where they said, oh, this is the journey of forgiveness. There was 300 people sharing their stories and testimonials of boarding school. And most of them were really ugly, right? They were, traumatic. And
there's an order of investigation about that. We're supposed to be getting some kind of report about it sometime.
But my auntie, she shared this story. She goes, you know what, grandson? I went to boarding school, so did your grandmother. We went down to Sherman, we were little girls, we went down there, and I wasn't like all those other bad Indians, She goes, I was a good Indian. She said, I listened to the nuns, I did what they said. I prayed to the Lord, and I went to school, and I eventually became a nurse. She said, because all those other Indians, they didn't listen. And I knew one day I was going to come home and help my people. And so she went on to tell about her boarding school. She went to nursing school, and she was a Christian, very devout. She's well known up there on that parade. She was in Bertie, and a lot of people knew her as, oh, that's Rose, because she told it like it was. And so again, it just taught me that lesson, it's who we are. I don't need a number anymore. The beautiful thing is, my relatives at the Pitt River Nation recently called me up and said, hey, we have this old application on file. And I was like, man, you know how long ago that was? They said, do you still want to be a tribal member? Because we're going to close your application. I'm like, heck yeah, I do. Hey. And they said, you just have to submit this document and that document. So from now on, if, this is a big if, Brother Mark.
Congratulations.
Hey, I'll be saying, I'm Pitt River. I will no longer say I'm Miwok or Miwok. Hey. So I just wanted to share a little bit of that because I work at the Native Dads Network. We're developing a couple of different programs. They're all youth. We're really developing a youth component, and then we've been working with fathers, mothers, and their families. We realize culturally that working in clinics and treatment programs, a lot of the times, especially for tribal programs, we work with the individual. We take the individual out of the home, out of the community, and we take them and we get them well, and then we put them right back in the same home, in the same community, and nothing's changed there, right? It's like, the healing forest model for White Bison. You take a sick tree out of the sick forest, you take it to the nursery, get it well, then you put it right back in the sick forest. What happens? At the root of what's going on, it's still sick. So we realize is we have to work with the families. We have to work within the communities. And what we're realizing, there's a disconnection from our youth to our elders. Because the parents are sick. And so our goal now is to link generations. And so we have a program that's called Indigenous Mentors, Protecting Ancestral Teachings. Impact. And we've been awarded a couple of different funding streams that are helping us address that. And then also, during the pandemic, we realized that a lot of treatment programs shut the doors. A lot of clinics, they either closed their doors or they had to step back from some of their services. And prior to the pandemic, I was a part of an organization called Telewell Indian Health, and we were building out telemedicine programming for more rural and frontier tribal communities. And moreover, and specifically MAT, right? Medication-assisted therapies, harm reduction approaches for tribal communities. And at the same time, Sakui was developing, you know, a campaign to address those in some really beautiful marketing materials. So if you don't know, we have my sister Virginia here and the organization Sakui, that at Native Dads were like, do we need to recreate the wheel or not? Because this is beautiful. And we don't. We collaborate, right? We partner. And so out of that grew what was called the Wellness Tour. And during the pandemic, because of social distancing, masking, all of the rules that were in place, sanitizing, we could no longer go to and host conferences indoors. And so what we thought is, let's do this outside. And so we reached out to a couple of tribes, and we started at Yakayama, and we sat outdoors, distanced around the fire. We brought our medicine, we brought our prayer people, we invited the people from that community and their feathers, and we opened up in ceremony. And we educated. We brought awareness. We invited our youth. We actually had youth with us. And out of that, our youth said, why don't we do a skit? And so we developed a skit, an overdose skit. It was really a Narcan education, naloxone education and awareness training. And then it developed into the administration component, so how to administer. And man, since then, we've been invited to communities from the south to the northern tips of California. And so this year we were awarded another grant to have some regional wellness conferences, wellness tour conferences. So we're in the process right now of developing one